Welcome to the deep dive. This week, we are looking at something, well, something profoundly different than the usual software update cycle.
Yeah, this isn't just about a new feature.
No. Our sources are detailing a moment where, the entire technology sector, from these trillion-dollar giants down to the risky startups, is basically tearing up its own rule book.
They're rewriting everything,
Man.
and they're rewriting it with just two letters, AI.
Exactly. It's more than a change in priority. It feels like an infrastructural mandate.
It is. When you look across this stack of news we have, you see Amazon's CEO, Andy Jassy. He's actually using the phrase inflection point.
And that's a heavy phrase.
It's a huge phrase. It implies that the old way of doing business is just over. And the sheer volume of news we're seeing, from massive leadership shakeups to new state-level safety laws in New York, it just shows how quickly the ground is shifting under everyone's feet.
That is the perfect way to put it, because it's no longer a conversation about if a company should adopt AI. It's about making AI the absolute non-negotiable core of your entire strategy. It doesn't matter if you're selling cloud services or social media or even physical things like electric cars.
The mandate is here, and it seems to require this deep vertical integration right from the silicon chip all the way up.
So our mission today is to move past all the hype. We want to break down these pretty dramatic shifts into clear, non-jargon insights for you.
Right, so you can really understand what these monumental changes mean for business, for the competition, and frankly, for your daily digital life.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We've structured this deep dive into 4 key areas. First, we're going to look at the corporate strategy pivots at giants like Amazon and Meta.
How they're really re-architecting their entire leadership structure.
Then second, we'll dive into the competitive model wars. This is the head-to-head battle between OpenAI and Google, and it's all about speed and reasoning.
After that, we'll explore how AI is moving into the real world. We're focusing on Rivian's huge bet on autonomy and how automation is changing core business software.
And finally, we'll wrap up with the new rules and guardrails that are being, desperately built in places like New York State to try and govern all this technology.
Let's start right at the top, in the command centers, because the structural changes happening in these corporations are the clearest signal yet that AI isn't a separate division anymore.
Yeah.
It is the infrastructure.
So when a company as massive and as dominant as Amazon announces a major high-level restructuring, you just know it's a direct response to a fundamental competitive threat.
Oh, absolutely. Andy Jassy didn't just declare this inflection point for a press release. He did it because Amazon, even though they're the leader in cloud with AWS, was visibly lagging.
Lagging behind who? Google and Microsoft, right?
Exactly. They were just not capitalizing on the AI boom in the same way. And the numbers are frankly alarming if you're an Amazon shareholder.
What are we talking about here?
Well, our sources note that at the time of this shakeup, Amazon's shares were up only about 1% year to date.
1%, wow.
1%. Now compare that to a massive 56% leap for Google's parent company, Alphabet.
56.
And a very strong 14% increase for Microsoft. That kind of performance gap, where your competitors are seeing 5 to 50 times the growth.
That sends a message.
It sends a powerful agent message to leadership. Adapt or get left behind. You have to catch up and you have to do it fast.
So the response has been this fundamental top-down overhaul.
Yeah.
Jassy is consolidating all of Amazon's separate AI efforts under one massive unified group.
And this new organization is now being run by Peter DeSantis, a 27-year Amazon veteran.
DeSantis. His background is really telling, isn't it?
It tells you everything you need to know. He's an infrastructure guy through and through.
Yeah.
He's known for leading the launch of the original Amazon EC2 service way back in 2006.
The bedrock of AWS.
Bedrock. He spearheaded the acquisition of a chip designer, Annapurna Labs, in 2015, and he's been managing all of AWS infrastructure since 2016. The fact that he now reports directly to Jassy just signals the enormous strategic importance of this new group.
It really sounds like this consolidation is a very explicit move toward vertical integration. It's something we've seen Google and Microsoft pursuing really heavily.
It absolutely is. DeSantis' new organization connects everything. It covers foundational AI model development, the company's own proprietary chip-making unit.
Which is focused on their Trainium chips.
Right. And it even includes their long-term quantum computing research. When we talk about vertical integration here, we mean linking the specialized hardware, the optimized software, and all that foundational research under one single decisive roof.
The goal being efficiency, cost control.
All of the above. It's about efficiency, cost control, and performance optimization. The idea is to build a system where the chip is designed explicitly to run your model, and the model is designed explicitly for your own infrastructure.
But this strategy, it requires a colossal investment in their own hardware, in these Trainium chips. Now, our sources praise Trainium for its data processing capabilities, especially the cost-performance ratio. But I have to push back a little here.
Go for it.
Amazon is going up against NVIDIA's massive, overwhelming dominance in the chip space. If they can't break that monopoly, aren't they just building a hugely expensive internal silo? Where's the plan B if they can't get other customers on board?
That is the critical skepticism every investor should have right now. You're absolutely right. The customer base for Trainium is currently very narrow.
So who's using it?
Well, it's mostly being used for Amazon's own internal work and for the development of Anthropic's AI models.
Anthropic, the big AI startup that Amazon has invested billions in.
That's the one. So while Amazon's own Nova models are positioned to be cost competitive, meaning, you get a good model for a cheaper price, they're still facing rivals like Google and Microsoft who are competing aggressively on sheer bleeding-edge performance with their own in-house silicon.
So Amazon's big bet is that controlling that whole pipeline, from the Trainium chip up to the Nova model, will eventually give them an unassailable cost and efficiency edge over time.
Precisely.
But they have to prove that investment can pay off quickly by bringing in major external customers.
That's the challenge. They're leveraging their scale, their ability to design chips optimized specifically for their own massive data center architecture.
Yeah.
This isn't a quarter-to-quarter play.
No, this is a 5 to 10-year competitive strategy.
Exactly.
And speaking of long-term plays, the leadership change in their foundational research is also extremely telling. Rohit Prasad, who led the large language model effort, the creation of Amazon Nova, he's leaving.
And his replacement. Wow, his replacement just highlights the massive scope of Amazon's ambition here.
Who are they bringing in?
Prasad is being replaced by Peter Abil. He's a former OpenAI researcher and the founder of the very well-regarded robotics startup Covariant. Abil is now going to lead the frontier model research team, and they're focused specifically on AGI, artificial general intelligence.
AGI, so they're not just thinking about the next chatbot.
Not even close. Hiring a world-leading robotics and AI researcher like Abil shows that Amazon is focusing its most advanced efforts on competing at the absolute highest level of model capability. They're looking beyond just language models, maybe towards models that can interact with the physical world, which is, Abil's specialty.
Okay, now let's pivot from Amazon to Meta. They're also implementing a massive AI-first mandate, but their strategy seems to be, well, it's characterized more by aggressive acquisition and an immediate focus on boosting productivity.
And they'll do it even if it means putting their competitors' tools in the hands of their own employees for a little while.
Right. Mark Zuckerberg is personally leading this charge, making AI core to how we work, according to their chief information officer. It's an aggressive internal strategy that has sparked what you can only really call a hiring war.
A significant hiring war. And when you say aggressive, the sources really underscore it. Zuckerberg himself led a hiring drive that recruited over 20 researchers just from OpenAI alone.
That's a direct talent raid.
It is. And even more dramatically, they brought in the founder of Scale AI, Alexander Wang, to lead the new Meta Superintelligence Labs, or MSL.
And that happened after they acquired a near-majority stake in Scale AI, right?
A 49% stake. For a whopping $14 billion.
$14 billion? That is a staggering investment.
It is. But it instantly gives Meta access to deep talent and, more importantly, significant data labeling and training expertise, which is absolutely essential for developing these frontier models.
So Wang is now leading the team developing their next generation of models. And that 49% stake gives Meta massive strategic influence over Scale AI's entire data pipeline.
They've essentially secured a massive resource for all their future model training.
And these models, they have some memorable names, and they sound like they belong in a produce aisle.
They do. MSL is developing Mango for image and video generation tools.
Mango.
And Avocado, which is focused specifically on improving coding skills. These are expected in the first half of 2026, and they're positioned to compete directly against tools from Google and OpenAI.
But the truly fascinating detail in all of this is the internal toolkit. Even while Meta is spending billions on its own models, they're not forcing employees to use them.
Not yet, anyway.
They've opened the floodgates for their own staff to use competitor models. It shows they're prioritizing immediate, observable productivity over some kind of internal purism.
This is a brilliant, calculated, strategic compromise. Internal staff have access to Google's Gemini 3 Pro and even OpenAI's GPT-5.
And crucially, it's a specific version of GPT-5.
Yes, the agentic auto with GPT-5 thinking version.
Right.
And for you listening, agentic is the key word here.
What does that mean, practically?
It means the model can perform multi-step, goal-oriented actions without needing continuous human input. So instead of just answering a single question, it can say, okay, to achieve your goal, I will first do step A, then step B, and finally deliver C.
So they're teaching their employees to leverage the most advanced capabilities available right now, no matter where they come from, while they build their own next-generation tools in the background.
It's a powerful internal training strategy. They also use internal tools like Llama, a fast model for internal Q&A.
And that's critical because it can process their own proprietary data, right?
Right.
Data they would never feed into an external model like GPT-5.
Never. And they have DevMit, their AI coding assistant, which uses Anthropic's Claude. They even migrated their entire internal productivity suite over to Google Workspace just to better integrate these AI-driven tools.
And they're going even further. The sources show they've actually gamified AI use with an internal system called Level Up.
Right. It rewards employees with badges for using AI in different ways. And starting in 2026, they are explicitly tying performance reviews to AI-driven impact.
That is the ultimate definition of an AI-first mandate.
It is. The pressure is coming from the very top down to truly integrate this technology into every single workflow. They're forcing employees to not just adopt the tool, but to prove its impact on their actual performance metrics.
It seems like the risk of being seen as the company that failed to adapt is just existential for Meta right now.
It is for everyone.
That intensity, that urgency to catch up or maintain dominance, it leads us directly into our second section, the fierce head-to-head model wars between OpenAI and Google.
And this competition is no longer abstract. It's reactive. It's immediate.
The entire landscape is defined by this reactive push and pull. Our sources indicate that OpenAI's latest launch, GPT 5.2, was actually accelerated because of an internal code red memo.
And that phrase, code red, implies absolute panic. It's not just your typical competitive urgency.
So what triggered that level of fear inside OpenAI?
Google's rival model, Gemini 3 Pro, had been widely cited as the leading multimodal model just weeks before the GPT 5.2 launch.
So OpenAI felt they were losing ground, especially in the enterprise sector.
That's right. The resulting GPT 5.2 launch, which happened on December 11th, 2025, isn't just one model. It's actually a whole family of 3 different multimodal models.
And this move to stratify models based on the use case, that's a major trend, right? Moving away from the single monolithic model.
It is.
Can you break down those 3 modes for us? Because for the average user, the difference isn't always clear, but it really affects cost and speed.
Absolutely. The best way to think about it is as a spectrum defined by speed versus compute cost. So at one end, you have GPT 5.2 Instant.
The fast one.
Exactly. This one is optimized primarily for speed and efficiency. It's designed for those rapid transactional questions where you just need an answer immediately, the quick answer machine.
Got it. What's in the middle?
In the middle, you have GPT 5.2 Thinking. This comes in standard and extended options. These are the reasoning models.
So they take longer.
A little longer, maybe a few extra seconds, but the goal is to produce significantly better, more accurate answers by giving the model more time to think through the problem.
And finally, at the top tier, the heavy hitter.
That's the GPT 5.2 Pro model. This one requires the most reasoning time and the most compute power, but it is by far the most powerful. Early testing suggests it performs about 7 points better than its predecessor, GPT 5.1.
And critically, this Pro model is specifically designed to excel at complex, multi-step business tasks.
That's the key.
Give us some examples of those business tasks, because this is where the money is for the enterprise.
It's designed to handle things like complex spreadsheet creation, detailed financial modeling, generating high-quality presentations from raw data.
Things that take a human a lot of time.
And managing multi-step project execution. These are all tasks that require consistent context and memory across several different prompts. This emphasis tells you exactly who they're trying to capture: the enterprise user who needs reliable, high-quality, complex output.
And of course, Microsoft, their closest partner, immediately announced its availability in Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Studio on the very same day.
The integration is instantaneous.
So on the flip side of this desperate race, you have Google's strategy. And that seems to be focused on massive scale, cost efficiency, and just huge exposure.
That's it. Google made Gemini 3 flash the default model in their Gemini app and, even more significantly, the default model behind the AI mode in search.
That is a brilliant, maybe even ruthless move.
It is.
Google is essentially making their AI accessible to billions of people without them even realizing they're using a top-tier model.
It's all about accessibility and just normalizing the experience. Flash is positioned as being much faster and cheaper to run than the full Pro version.
But it's still powerful.
Crucially, yes.
Yeah.
It still has Gemini 3 Pro's strong core reasoning capabilities. By making it the default in search, they expose a huge global user base to a truly multimodal model that can process and respond to video, images, audio, and text inputs instantly.
They're transforming search from a collection of blue links into a generative AI experience.
That's the goal.
And speaking of multimodality, the model wars have now fully spilled over into the image generation race. OpenAI launched ChatGPT images for generation and editing.
And this is in direct competition with Google's model, which internally they call Nano Banana.
A great name.
A model that had been highly praised for its ability to create these studio-quality outputs and handle complex text rendering within the image itself. ChatGPT Images is focused on offering faster creation speeds and more precise, non-destructive edits.
What does that mean, non-destructive?
So, for example, you could edit an element in the background of an image while perfectly preserving details like the lighting and consistency across multiple iterations. That kind of fidelity is absolutely critical for professional content creation teams.
This heightened competition is changing the very mechanics of how people discover information and create content, especially in the marketing world. We're seeing a significant and kind of scary shift in SEO.
The shift is happening because these AI answers inside search results are further pushing discovery away from the traditional 10 blue links that we all grew up with.
So what do marketers do now?
Well, now they need to ensure their content provides stronger authority signals. It has to have a clearer structure, and it needs to be designed specifically to be cited or accurately summarized by an AI engine in its answer box.
So you're operating in two separate arenas now. There's the classic search ranking game, and then there's this new AI-generated response game.
Exactly. And that really emphasizes trust and credibility in a way that just wasn't mandatory before. It forces marketers back to the fundamentals.
What the sources refer to as EEAT.
Experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. If your content is sloppy, poorly structured, or it lacks real authority, you risk being completely invisible in this new AI-driven search world.
Because the AI won't select you as a trusted source for its generated answer.
Precisely. The implication is that superficial content is now basically economically useless.
And while tools like ChatGPT Images or the updates to Adobe Firefly, which added prompt-to-edit features and camera motion controls, are dramatically increasing creative speed, you mentioned a huge risk.
I did. Sameness.
Explain that.
It's the double-edged sword of velocity. When everyone can generate high-quality images and video faster than ever, the creative bar definitely rises, but the risk of sameness rises right along with it.
So you get a lot of aesthetically pleasing but ultimately generic content that starts to look identical across brands.
Exactly. And this isn't just a creative problem, it's an organizational one. Your marketing spend now shifts dramatically away from budget for output volume and towards the strategic team that has to validate and differentiate the AI output.
So the strategy moves from how quickly can we generate 100 images to how do we make sure these 10 images are distinct, legally sound, and actually connect to our brand.
That's the new game. And of course, there's the rising intellectual property risk that's inherent in using these generative tools, which are trained on vast, sometimes questionable data sets.
So marketers need to focus much more on brand controls, rigorous internal review processes, and clear indemnification policies to manage that legal exposure.
It's essential. The model wars aren't just about speed anymore. They're about control over the output, control over the IP, and defining the business use cases that separate the winners from the losers.
Okay, shifting gears now, we need to talk about how AI is moving beyond the chat interface in the cloud and actually getting into physical products and core business software.
And few companies are making a riskier, higher stakes bet on this physical manifestation of AI than Rivian.
Rivian, the electric vehicle maker, known for its rugged outdoor-themed trucks and SUVs, they are fundamentally redefining their identity.
They are. They are making a huge, expensive, and undeniably risky bet on chasing the trajectory of Waymo and Tesla by centering their entire future on AI and autonomy.
Their CEO, RJ Scaringe, He views autonomous driving not as just another feature, but as physical AI.
That's the term he uses. They recognize that the advances in these large parameter models, the same transformer technology that powers LLMs, prompted a fundamental shift in how you should design a self-driving system. So in early 2022, they started a clean sheet redesign of their entire autonomy platform.
And this redesign is built on what they call a data flywheel.
Correct. It's the process of constantly gathering real-world driving data from their fleet every single mile, driven by every single Rivian owner, to train what they call a large driving model.
So it's like a language model, but for driving.
That's a great way to put it. Instead of generating coherent text, this model generates coherent action to operate a vehicle safely in a complex, unpredictable physical environment. The scale of the data required is just staggering.
And this strategy is immediately translating into their existing fleet. Their current system, Gen 2, is already equipped with some pretty advanced hardware.
It is 11 cameras and 5 radar sensors. A simple software update enables hands-free driving on 3.5 million miles of mapped road in the US and Canada.
That existing hardware footprint allows them to launch a critical revenue stream right away, Autonomy Plus.
Right. This is their paid subscription package. It's offered at either a $2,900 one-time purchase or $49.99 a month.
Though they are offering it free until March 2026 to get people hooked.
Of course. And this package unlocks partial autonomous driving features like hands-free point-to-point capability on specific roads.
That monthly fee is absolutely crucial for their profitability, isn't it? Especially considering the enormous capital costs required for their AI dreams.
It's the whole business model pivot. They're trying to emulate the high-margin software business of a tech company, not the low-margin manufacturing business of a traditional auto company.
But the truly ambitious move, and the one that separates them strategically from camera-focused rivals like Tesla, is their Gen 3 system.
That's the big one. It's coming in late 2026 for their R2 model, and Gen 3 is built around proprietary custom silicon and a crucial sensor addition, LiDAR.
LiDAR, the laser sensor technology. This is the defining technical choice for them.
It is. Rivian believes it is absolutely non-negotiable for achieving high levels of safety. LiDAR fires millions of laser pulses per second to create an incredibly precise, high-resolution 3D map of the environment, and it works regardless of the lighting conditions.
So why is that trifecta cameras, radar, and LiDAR so superior?
Well, the visual comparisons shown in the sources they're stark. A camera-only system can really struggle with depth estimation, and radar can miss objects that don't reflect well.
But the trifecta?
The trifecta is significantly better at spotting hidden objects, assessing complex scenes, and identifying pedestrians, particularly in poor weather or changing light. LiDAR confirms what the cameras see and what the radar detects, creating a much more robust, validated 3D world map for the AI to navigate.
The power they're building into this new Gen 3 AI computer is staggering. It's a dual-chip setup capable of 1,600 trillion operations a second. I mean, that figure sounds like pure science fiction.
It is an incredible raw metric, but Rivian specifically points out that TOPS, that metric, can be misleading. It's often used as a marketing boast.
So it's a better metric.
They offer a more relevant one for a camera-heavy robotics system: how fast the computer processes the information flowing from the sensors. Rivian claims its Gen 3 system will process 5 billion pixels per second.
5 billion.
And they specifically challenged competitors on this, noting that their pixel processing rate is designed to be significantly higher. That's the true measure of their ability to react quickly and safely.
But making this massive financial bet on custom silicon and a LiDAR platform has to be incredibly expensive. What happens if this new platform fails to reach Level 4 autonomy? Or what if regulators move faster than their deployment schedule?
It is a massive capital risk, and that's why the long-term goal is so important. Rivian's goal is Level 4 autonomy. No human supervision required in certain limits, which would allow drivers to truly reclaim their time.
But the path to get there is full of organizational hurdles, not just technical ones.
That's right. You're talking about liability, aren't you?
I am.
This is the ticky-tacky of the real work streams that Rivian has to design. As autonomy improves, human driving shrinks, and the liability and insurance models have to shift accordingly.
And have they worked that out?
Not yet. Rivian has yet to fully work out how it will legally accept liability for crashes that occur when its autonomous systems are driving. They have to build trust by defining risk management protocols, but legally, that is a huge undertaking that could delay profitability, regardless of the tech.
So Rivian's ultimate success rests not just on custom silicon and LiDAR, but on solving this sticky problem of liability and justifying that $50 a month subscription.
And this focus on automation, on leveraging AI for competitive advantage, it's transforming not just physical products like cars, but core enterprise software too.
Let's look at CRM, customer relationship management, starting with Insightly Copilot. This speaks directly to one of the biggest, most frustrating problems in enterprise software: low user adoption.
It's a huge systemic issue. Insightly highlights that only 34% of sales teams fully adopt their CRM.
Meaning 2/3 of the investment is just wasted.
Wasted.
Yeah.
Because the system is too complex, it's unintuitive, or it requires too much manual data entry. This is why they launched Copilot, an AI assistant designed to make that complex software essentially disappear behind a conversational interface.
So how does this conversational layer actually help a mid-market business?
It makes 4 core tasks radically simpler. First, conversational task management. A user can just type or say what they need the Copilot to do rather than clicking through 5 different menus.
Okay, that's a big one.
It is. Second, AI-powered data hygiene. The AI identifies duplicates, it cleans records automatically, it fills in the gaps. Third, insight generation. It proactively surfaces key trends, priority leads, and follow-up opportunities.
So the goal is to allow these smaller organizations to compete like big enterprises by making the software intuitive no matter who's using it.
Exactly. And we see this same agentic functionality extending into collaboration platforms as well. Zoom's AI Companion 3.0 is pushing way past simple meeting summaries.
Right, the new version is focused on what they call agentic workflows.
It features low-code automation, browser access, and the ability to retrieve information from across all your meetings, your notes, and your connected third-party apps. And crucially, it uses a federated approach to manage the cost of all this high-level work.
That's a great technical term. Can you give us an analogy for the listener to understand how that federated approach works for cost control?
Sure. Think of it like a restaurant kitchen. The system intelligently starts with smaller, cheaper models to handle simple, low-stakes requests. That's the equivalent of simple orders like summarize the last 5 minutes.
Okay.
Only if the request is complex and high stakes, like draft a new contract amendment based on the last 4 meetings and check regulatory compliance, does the request get escalated to the high-cost specialized chef.
The larger, more powerful model.
Right. This balances the quality of the output with minimizing the compute costs. It's smart resource management applied to AI.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, finally, let's look at Microsoft's solution to prompt trial and error, which anyone who uses generative AI daily knows is a huge time sink. They introduced Promptions.
Promptions is Microsoft's response to prompt fatigue. It's an open-source UI framework designed to standardize and dramatically improve output quality.
How does it work?
Instead of you having to be an expert in prompt engineering, the system automatically generates clickable controls for options like tone, length, or output format based on the context of your conversation.
So if I type, write an email to my team about the upcoming launch, the UI might then present me with clickable options like tone, professional, casual, urgent, and length, short, detailed.
Exactly. This drastically reduces the reliance on individual prompt expertise and helps standardize output quality across large teams. While testing showed that users sometimes found the controls a little confusing at first, the overall goal is vital: to reduce prompt fatigue and provide a repeatable, best practice workflow.
It's standardization applied directly to the creative generation process.
Ensuring consistency across a global workforce.
So as technology moves this fast, with corporations restructuring, models accelerating, cars driving themselves, the political and ethical pushback is inevitable and, frankly, necessary.
It is. Our final section covers the new guardrails and safety rules being built to govern this landscape. And the pressure is really coming from the state level.
That's right. In the U.S., where Congress often lags on setting federal standards, states like New York and California are stepping up.
They're creating these de facto safety rules that frontier AI companies just have to adhere to, simply because those states represent such huge consumer bases.
New York Governor Kathy Hochul signed the RAISE Act into law, which targets these advanced AI models and has some really concrete, heavy-hitting compliance requirements.
The core of the RAISE Act is all about accountability, and it does that through incident reporting.
How does that work?
Companies operating these frontier models have to report any critical safety incidents to the state within 72 hours of determining when occurred. This is a huge shift.
And what counts as a safety incident?
Well, the list includes things like the model demonstrating dangerous autonomous capabilities, aiding in the creation of biological or chemical weapons, or exhibiting large-scale malicious deception.
And the penalties aren't minor. $1 million penalty for the first violation. That sends a serious message.
It does. It requires companies to have formal risk assessment plans in place and includes severe financial penalties, up to $1 million for the first violation and up to $3 million for subsequent ones.
That's designed to be substantial enough to influence even large tech companies.
Right, though it does pale in comparison to the billions the EU is considering for similar violations. But New York is attempting to raise the floor for safety legislation nationally, forcing the industry to formalize its safety practices or pay a massive financial cost.
And beyond model safety, New York also targeted transparency in advertising. They passed a separate law that requires advertisers to clearly disclose when an ad includes AI-generated people or synthetic avatars that don't correspond to a real human.
This creates very concrete, non-negotiable compliance obligations for creative teams. If you're using a synthetic spokesperson or an influencer replica, the disclosure has to be conspicuous.
Which reflects the rising scrutiny of how AI is being used in public-facing media.
It does. It's aiming to prevent consumer confusion or misrepresentation and protect the public from being deliberately manipulated by people who don't actually exist.
Now, shifting from government regulation to platform policy, OpenAI is also formalizing safety measures. Specifically, they're prioritizing the protection of younger users with their updated U18 principles.
This is a really important recognition that users aged 13 to 17 have different developmental needs and are at different risk levels than adults. They require extra care.
And OpenAI developed this framework with outside experts, right?
They did, in consultation with groups like the American Psychological Association. It's a critical, proactive step.
So what are the 4 guiding pillars that drive the design choices for this U18 experience?
They're designed to be holistic. First, put teen safety first, and they explicitly state that this priority supersedes other goals. Second, promote real-world support by encouraging offline relationships and directing users to trusted human resources when they need it. Third, treat teens like teens, which means avoiding condescension or treating them as fully formed adults who can handle complex psychological stressors alone.
And the fourth?
And fourth, be transparent by setting clear expectations about the system's limits, its performance, and its boundaries.
These sound like they would require major changes in the model's actual behavior. What are some of the specific safeguards they've implemented against high-risk areas?
They've significantly tightened the guardrails against discussing higher-risk topics. We're talking about explicit filtering for content related to self-harm, sexualized roleplay, dangerous substances, body image, and disordered eating.
So the system is designed to provide safer alternatives and immediately encourage contacting professional crisis support if there's immediate danger.
The key is to manage that interaction proactively and responsibly.
And they're even working on technology to enforce this internally, even if the user hasn't revealed their age.
Yes. They're piloting an age prediction model. This tool looks at subtle conversational signals, patterns of speech, references, complexity, to assess if a user might be under 18.
And if it's not sure?
If the system is uncertain about a user's age or has incomplete information, it will automatically default to the U18 experience to ensure safety is prioritized. It's an incredibly nuanced technical challenge, but it's a necessary safety layer.
And all of these guardrails are being built for a very good reason. We have seen widespread trust erosion caused by rushed, human, unsupervised AI content experiments.
Absolutely. The warning signs are everywhere. Rushing AI content to market causes factual errors and quality failures, and that leads directly to public backlash and brand damage.
Our sources highlight several high-profile examples of this.
They do. Amazon pulling an AI-generated Prime Video recap after it contained obvious mistakes and inaccuracies. McDonald's Netherlands removing an AI Christmas ad after immediate online criticism about its tone and quality.
The lesson for marketers and publishers here is just so clear. The velocity you get from AI is meaningless if it breaks that fundamental trust you have with your consumer.
Rushed AI content damages trust quickly and severely, and that damage is slow to repair. Successful integration requires a new organizational commitment.
That's just why.
Rigorous testing, mandatory editorial review, consistent human oversight, transparency, and formalized disclosure policies. And all of that has to happen before you scale AI-generated copy, audio, or video. You absolutely cannot skip the step where a human validates the output.
Finally, one crucial element of this guardrail discussion involves the foundational structure of the open web itself. Creative Commons raised a major warning about a concept called pay-to-crawl systems.
Right. This idea is intended to compensate sites for machine access to their content, meaning if an AI model scrapes your website for training data, you get paid.
Which sounds fair on the surface.
It does.
Yeah.
But Creative Commons warns that if it's implemented poorly, it could become an extractive or proprietary new web choke point.
How exactly would that choke point work, and why is that so dangerous?
Well, if the system is controlled by proprietary gatekeepers, the big tech companies or specific centralized bodies, it could effectively consolidate power and become a form of digital rights management, or DRM, for web access.
So instead of the open web, where all machines can access information equally, you create a tiered system.
You do. Creative Commons is advocating for nuanced controls that distinguish clearly between different machine users, say a commercial AI model versus a nonprofit researcher, and for different purposes, like training versus simple indexing.
So the debate is really about how to monetize the data that trains these massive models without undermining the free flow of information and the open standards that made the modern internet work in the first place.
That's the highest stake of all. If the open web becomes proprietary and closed off by these AI access payments, it fundamentally changes the nature of public knowledge and access for everyone. It makes information extractive rather than reciprocal.
Okay, let's unpack all this. If we zoom out from all these highly detailed changes, the feverish restructuring at Amazon, the code red urgency at OpenAI, that massive LiDAR investment from Rivian, the new laws in New York, what stands out to me is this unified, intense theme of control.
That's a great way to put it.
Corporate leaders are taking tight, centralized control over strategy. Regulators are taking control over safety and transparency. And users are demanding more control over the creative process with tools like promptions.
It really feels less like a technological experiment now and much more like permanent business infrastructure being erected under immense competitive pressure.
Exactly. The pressure cooker is real. The competitive drive is forcing companies to make these billion-dollar vertical integration bets on chips and training data, like we saw with Amazon and Rivian.
Because relying on third parties is now seen as too risky. Meanwhile, the legal system and all these ethical frameworks are just desperately trying to catch up to protect consumers and ensure the stability of information itself in a world saturated with synthetic content.
It seems like the next frontier isn't just about iterating on the models themselves anymore, but fundamentally changing the form factor they inhabit.
That's the crucial implication we need to consider, especially when it comes to privacy. We noted how the entire category of wearables, glasses, pendants, pins is pivoting to make always-on AI their core value proposition.
Smart glasses are now explicitly being rebranded as AI glasses.
Because that on-face audio and camera context make them the ideal, seamless form factor for constant contextual AI interaction.
So if AI becomes ambient, a companion that summarizes your whole day, generates your to-do lists, provides real-time translation right into your ear, that changes everything about how we interact with the digital world.
And that raises a profound final question for you, our listener, to mull over. If the AI touchpoint is literally on your face or in your ear, constantly analyzing your surroundings and conversations, what will be the marketing and privacy challenges?
How is consent even defined when the system is always listening?
And perhaps most disruptively, how do brands even reach you when discovery becomes entirely context-aware and ambient, curated by an AI that knows your precise, immediate situation better than you do yourself? That is the truly challenging landscape we are all stepping into.
Fascinating. And a great note to end on. Thank you for diving deep with us today.